Yeah. Yeah, it did a lot.
Ready?
Yep. That looked like a nice one. We found ourselves struggling right here at the beginning, simply because, at the bottom of this cut, we had some particularly hard rock, and we would try to blast, and of course there was no room. And that's most of what we spent the day before doing. So it was just sort of a brute force and ignorance kind of situation where more or less we had to pulverize everything. The downside of that is we ended up having some hole blowouts and some flyers or whatnot. Nothing that came near us, but one of them did clip a drill, which, you know, isn't ideal, though she still runs okay. I'm going to do a separate video here pretty soon on the drill bits that I'm using. Uh, this is so much harder than what the SDS Max bits are designed for, right? They're really designed for concrete, and I've got them here in this super hard quartzite. I mean, this is some brutal stuff up in here. And we've tried various technologies and techniques to try to keep them alive longer, from exhausting the holes with the vacuum cleaner to cooling the bits in sort of every 12 seconds in the hole drilling, 4 seconds in the water cooling. The net result was just some incredibly unpredictable drilling. We would have carbide flake off, and we'd run in a drill bit with only 2 or 4 cutters, and then it would go for another hour. And then we'd have bits that were brand new, and one of them snapped right off at the shank. So there's a lot of just digging and blasting and digging and blasting. I just don't have a tremendous amount of time to swap multiple camera angles and things like that. So I just don't bother. But yeah, at the end of the day, by God, we got the mountain to move.
What?
That seemed to have gotten a fair bit of rock out.
It did. Well, we got a hunk here that's just absolutely solid. Got a crack in it. There ain't a crack in that, but see, that's all cracked there.
Okay.
And once we get rid of what you're on, this should come pretty easy. I guess I should have had you take one scoop right here just to clean it out.
I mean, I think even all this is pretty shattered, although that
I bet
appears
you could go up there and get some of that.
that appears to be pretty hard.
But you might be able to get it. Huh?
If I pick that a little
You
bit.
didn't pick at this. I mean, this is all just totally shattered right here. Next time, when you come in to pick, dig that some.
So what do you think? 3 holes? 1, 2, 3?
This stuff is popping. I suppose.
Ready? Okay.
Here goes.
One of them didn't go off.
One of them didn't. That one we made up, I suppose, huh?
Yep. No, all 3 went off. So we started doing multiple holes, and 2 at once worked a lot better. I think we get a bigger push, not just more explosives, but along a larger area. I'd much prefer bigger rocks than gravel. And we thought, if 2 worked, maybe 3 would be better. And there were places where it certainly was, and then of course there were places where it maybe wasn't. Again, I just had to try to make enough hole down at the bottom that we could break rock, and it gave it some place to move. And this is just some really hard stuff. And we didn't have a tremendous amount of success. Not in the beginning, anyways. We just had to keep pounding.
Phone. I might have made a mistake when I lent it to somebody. Please be recording this time. One more test. Did a hard reset fix the microphone? Now it sounds like my dulcet, sexy tones might be back in order. So, I know it occasionally, folks have contacted me about my baby in the excavator. And here's the deal, right? She's old. It came from a rock quarry itself. There's a fair bit of slop in a fair bit of the pins, and I just can't afford to fix it. So I know that I could pound on stuff harder and maybe break it up, but it cost me $1.50 per hole, and I'd rather spend $3 to pulverize the rocks than spend $1,000 and all the downtime fixing a machine I can't afford to repair and I can't afford to have not working. So that's why I baby the machine, even if a 2800 link belt is capable of more. Also, the turntable's pretty good. If you watch the gap between the bottom of the cab and the tracks, you can see she's pretty tight, but there's something there, and I'm just not going to beat on it.
Ready whenever you are. Okay. Here it goes. I heard the double blow that time. Yeah, definitely. One blew before the other one did. Would you have 3 wires on one of those? So it took a little longer to get warm? Well, it's not all the same whatever too, but yeah. Whoa!
So right here, we have removed the bottom left corner, and we're trying to get an opening at the bottom of this particular slope, and enough that the rock can begin pulling down. I've got to have room. I've got to have room for that rock to move. The trouble is, this rock sledge just continues down underneath our feet and ends at some sort of underground rock cliff someplace. So, it's not like I can find the bottom of it and work my way up. It would be a massive excavation, and there's no need to do it. So we're just pulverizing it. We're just trying to beat a hole, essentially, into this lower corner so that I can make room so that I can crush all the other rock down into that location. And it took a few blasts to get that open hole.
Ready? Yep. Nice. Very nice. Wow.
These are my least favorite of all the blasts. Remember, the amount of stuff we're using is rather small. But trying to pulverize that stuff, it always makes me nervous because, something might go up. And you can see here, though, we got it. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like peeling off a sticker. Once you get the corner lifted, the rest of it is quite a bit easier. What we also found is that a lot of times this rock shelf, whatever the break is between the two of these, is relatively a weak junction. And so if we can get into it, sometimes I can get a fair bit, and we don't have to blast anything. And we go from making very little headway, and then giant leaps and bounds, kind of like you saw here. From where Dad's standing, he can actually see a fine network of cracks open and close, something I can't see from the cab. And so he'll kind of watch for it, and if he sees an opportunity to get something going, he'll point it out to me, which is good, because you just wait to see what we got here at the end.
Serious progress. See, I'm figuring we put one in about here, we can pop this whole corner loose. Huh? And then one up there, pop that corner loose. And once you get that, then it should take and flake some more.
Go in like a stair step.
Well, yeah, sort of. If you can get behind it and hook it and pull, it goes pretty good.
Developed quite a system when it comes to how we drill and blast this stuff. Our holes are still very, very small. We're using those, I don't know who makes them, Bowers, the Harbor Freight drills, because why not? I figured that doing this is going to destroy at least one full drill, so why destroy a good one? And I have been using the Harbor Freight drill bits, and we'll talk about it later, but there were some tremendous differences in quality on those drill bits. We had ones earlier that just went and went and went and went, and they were fantastic. They were awesome. And then I bought a set, and they failed immediately. I bought another set, and they lasted a long time. Half of the drills that Dad bought failed immediately. We had one break right off at the shank. So I do have some quality Hilti bits coming in. They cost more than all the drill bits we've purchased so far. I hope to give those a try, and I'll be able to give you an honest comparison. Again, what we're drilling is so much harder than what these poor things were ever designed for. The vacuum cleaner suction wand thing, that has been a definite winner. It's a little hard on a vacuum, I imagine, but that pre-filter box catches a lot of it as well. But that does a great job, leaves our holes nice and clean, and is less horrible than blowing it out.
Ready? Yep. Here goes.
That one was a little loud.
Yeah, that one was a little loud. I could have caught it. I mean, that's, you see the great big ones that he's got out there?
Ooh, look, that. Oh my gosh.
That went all the way over there.
Entirely possible I doubled the powder in the big one.
Ah,
This is the
I
hot
wanted to make
rock
sure.
right here.
you see,
This is
We
the
broke
hottest
it.
rock.
Danny,
Yeah,
you see that great big rock down there
yes,
on the yellow cord?
yes.
That is the rock that flew 10 feet sideways and about 10 feet in the air and came down on top of that drill.
This one
It
right
had a lot of places that, it could have landed. All clear. Go ahead. There she goes. Oh, crying out loud. That one had a thump. Your hole didn't go. See the wires sticking out of it. Crack pretty good outline.
Halfway through this day, I finally swapped how I was packing the holes. Now, my previous method was the compound itself and a thin layer of sawdust. And then I would pack behind that our good, fine, highly compactable clay soil. And somebody, and I'll have to dig out in the comments, I don't remember who, recommended just dry sand. I, of course, have a whole bunch of just dry sand. And I really thought it wouldn't matter. What's the difference? It's packed, and soft, dry sand, would compact. It didn't seem like it would hold together as well as that hard clay soil. Oh boy, were we wrong. We noticed an immediate increase. Same amount of compound, but an immediate increase from the crushed rock that comes out of these holes once I started packing with the dry sand. I mean, it's a whole lot easier. You just pour it down in there rather than, poking it in like I did before. But yeah, I pour it down in. I put I didn't even put a barrier on the powder anymore. Just powder, sand. So I pour it down in there, put maybe an inch and a half, and I prod it down with my tamping stick, which is a chunk of bamboo. And then I would just keep going until the hole reached the surface like that. And yeah, it worked really, really well. I don't know exactly why. We were wondering if maybe it was the fact that the sawdust was providing a cushion layer and that just the clay would have been enough, but the clay was also damp, so that would have given us at least our contact layer of compound that didn't go off. So I don't know. I can just tell you that the dry sand works really well, and it's really easy to get down inside the holes. So we we saw an immediate increase in the amount of stuff. And as you can see here, once we got that face started, by God, we could just motor. We just took out thousands and thousands of pounds of rock, and we just motor right along. There is another sheet of rock sitting where the rubber mats are, and so we got to do this whole thing again. And as of yet, I haven't tested to see if that stuff will separate from the other stuff. It doesn't look like it, but there's a 3-foot difference between where the rubber mats are sitting and where Dad and Shay are standing. But yeah, just wait till you see this. Since it had worked so well right there, we wondered if it would be possible to get in the hole farther, and then pull some more down. Did we even have to do more blasting? Would she just break for us? So the idea was to get the excavator down in the bottom down there and reach up higher. What else could I get loose? Would it just continue all the way along? There is a nice long vertical crack that goes up with some old tree roots, rotten tree roots and stuff in it. So the idea was maybe she'd break loose right there. We're actually kind of successful. I got a fair bit more off of that far edge. However, the block in the center, it wasn't a block. It was just part of the planet. So there was no moving that. And I'm up high enough now, it's really beyond the scope of where the house would ever be anyways. You can see me lifting the thing off the ground. She's just not going to come. That's fine. We'll end up moving on. One last one.
I wish I'd had the camera on the boom. Well, that big crack just opened up.
Yeah, I mean, we were almost standing on it. Look at that mess. But I know that you can get all that where Shay's at. Worst case, we put a couple holes at the top, pop it, just crack it the slightest little bit, and that'll all come down, I think.
Well, I mean, I was pulling on it as it is, and it wasn't.
No, that's all pretty solid. Once you get into that swept off area, I couldn't see any cracks forming at all. I could see the cracks showing up in the other places, but not there. So you'd have to put in a couple of pops. But that's an incredible hole. I'd say you got a couple of 3s and 4,000 pounders, and then that big guy.
That's no slouch right there either.
Huh?
That one's no slouch right there.
Right. No, that one's probably 5 or 6, and the other one's probably 7 or 8. There's a way to put a scale on there. You did pretty good driving down in there. That wall is 3 feet high.
We just removed an awful lot of rock there in about 20 minutes.